we're talking about these crazy laws that are currently on the books that you can get nailed for with Mike Chase. And Mike, let's look at things like, for instance, the Tea Party or the Master Cake shop. Mm-hmm. We know that the city with the Master Cake shop, they were part of this. They wanted this guy to have to be forced to make wedding cakes. He felt it was unconstitutional. He brings it to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court basically says, well, if you're going to do it, here's how you do it. He's just been sued again. And I thought to myself, this is the third time. How is this guy affording it? But if the police or the state wanted to make sure that they taught this guy a lesson, they could go in on some bakery-related thing that is really old that nobody knows and says, you're in violation of this, and bleed the guy dry. He doesn't have a chance of survival, right?
You're exactly right about that. And I have a whole chapter in how to become a federal criminal about food, so how to become a federal criminal with food. And the truth is that the FDA and the USDA regulate all kinds of food crimes, and they can be so minor. I mean, in fact, a very similar situation is not that many years ago, there was a bakery up in New England that listed in sort of cute fashion, they listed love as an ingredient in their granola. Well, the FDA sent them a letter and said, hey, your products are misbranded because love is not anything we know anything about. It is not an ingredient we've ever heard of, and so your food is misbranded. And the truth is that becomes a federal crime. So yeah, for the Master Cake Shop or for anybody else in that industry, if they're a political opponent of somebody, you could go in and you conduct an investigation, you're going to find some violation of something because the federal government has so far exceeded its limited powers set forth in the Constitution that there are hundreds of thousands of crimes and potentially thousands of regulations that a person could have violated, and they'd be able to find something the harder they look. For sure.
And Tea Party members know this because the IRS investigated so many leaders of the Tea Party, and they came up with nothing, but they had to go through all this, federal regulation to be able to clear their name. It cost them a buttload of time and money. They know because just trying to get a 501c3 or C4, whatever it is, for many Tea Parties, they couldn't get it done because of the red tape. And it was because they were going against somebody in the government. So we've never faced this as Americans before. We've never seen this. The black Americans saw this in the Jim Crow era, but we haven't faced this as white America. And it's coming to all Americans if we don't wake up.
No, for sure. And last year, I wrote an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal called "Lock Her Up, Lock Him Up, They Could Lock You Up" about that exact point, which is this picking the unpopular person, the politically unpopular or whoever, and using this coercive weight of literally countless federal crimes, federal laws and regulations to carry out essentially vindictive purposes. That is the problem that it creates. It's not that we're arguing that regulation is inherently good or inherently bad. If you go through the book, you will see that every aspect of modern American life is regulated in such a way that it gives the government immense power for politically unpopular people to be prosecuted. I'll give you one example that I go through in the book, which is if you leave the country with more than $25 worth of nickels in your pocket, that's a federal crime. Okay? And I show you how to do that. I mean, you're going to need some pants with some good pockets and a nice sturdy belt. But the truth is that if you leave the country with more than $25 worth of nickels, you've committed a federal crime and face up to 5 years in prison. It's just one example of the government requiring all kinds of reporting and all kinds of information from you. Not that you've harmed anybody or actually created any kind of injury to anybody, but because the government so wants information that if you don't give that information to them, you could find yourself on the other end of an indictment and a potentially boundless investigation.
And this is made much worse because we've disengaged and separated ourselves from the Constitution and the idea of blind justice, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, no question about it. It is not an even-handed system.